Hey everybody, thanks for clicking on this video. If you are an avid camper, or if you're interested in living off-grid, or maybe you're just somebody that travels a lot and occasionally you run into the need to do some laundry, then you probably realize it's not the easiest task to deal with if you don't have traditional equipment. In this video, we're going to test out 3 methods that you can do your laundry off-grid, and we're going to evaluate the results and see if any one of these is any more viable than the others. So without further ado, let's dive into this. Let's see what these methods are and how successfully we can do our laundry. A very simple and cost-effective solution to your laundry issue is this. It's a readily available piece of camping gear that's becoming more and more popular, and it's a standard dry bag. This particular one is a 20-liter bag from a company called Runkle, I think is how you pronounce it, R-U-N-C-L. This was one of my bin store finds that I got for $3 or $4, so it was perfect for this little trial. So the way a dry bag works is they're designed to protect your gear while you're on an outing where you might be exposed to water. So you're going kayaking or something like that, or maybe you're going to be out in the rain. Now, there's not always a seal to the bag itself. Sometimes there's a Velcro seal, but the way these things work is pretty simple. It just closes up like this. Once your gear's inside, you roll it up and then clip it closed, and this will keep the stuff that you get inside dry. This particular one also has a little zipper pouch on the front if you want to put something like your cell phone or something in that for easy access. So the way we're going to use this is kind of the opposite of what it's intended for. Like I said, it's designed to keep water out, not necessarily keep water in. But because it's designed to keep water out, it's made to be somewhat waterproof, which means it's going to retain water, and we can put water in it and slosh it around a pretty good bit without having it all come out. So for the purposes of the video, I brought along a couple of items. I had a t-shirt that I took out in the backyard and I stomped on it in the dirt a few times and got it nice and yucky. This is a Polyblend sock that I put on and walked around for a little while in the dirt. And I've got a cotton sock that I did the same thing with. So what we're going to do is we're going to put these in the dry bag. We're going to add a little bit of laundry soap and some water and see if we can get them clean. In the bag goes the laundry. We don't want to use a lot of laundry soap because this is a very small load, and we also don't want to have to use a bunch of water to rinse it out at the end. So we should only need a couple of teaspoons of this. And to that, we're going to dump in some water. You want enough in here to kind of cover your stuff up, but it doesn't have to be floating around in it. So I put in about a ½ gallon of water. Let's close up our camp washing machine and see if this thing's going to work. Now, you do want to get a lot of the air out of it. You don't want a bunch of extra space in there. So I'm going to squeeze out the air, roll this thing up, clip it, and now we're going to agitate. Squish it in there really good. Get that water and that soap working together. See how it does here. So we get it upside down. We're not losing any water. That's a good thing. So at this point, you probably want to go find a chair somewhere, sit up against a tree or something, and just shake this around, toss it, roll on it, do whatever you want to do for about 10 minutes or so, just to make sure that the soap and the water are getting in there and doing their thing. Now, I can pretty much predict the stuff's not going to come out what most people would consider clean. I doubt it's going to be spotless. Chances are we're not going to get out a lot of the grit and grime. We'll get most of the loose dirt off, but really this is about sanitizing your stuff more so than getting it clean. At this point, we're not really worrying about the appearance of our stuff. It's more just about eliminating bacteria and odors and things that make your clothes generally unpleasant. You can only flip your underwear inside out a couple of times before it just gets to be gross. It's probably a good idea too to at some point just kind of let the bag sit, let the soap soak into the clothes, and the cleaning agents just kind of do what they're there to do. But agitate it for a good bit, then find a spot just to set it. Probably set it in the sunlight, let the natural sunlight heat the water that's inside of it. A little extra added benefit of a hot water wash. I do have a little bit of water that's coming through, and that's not surprising. These are designed to keep water out, not keep water in. Once you put that water under pressure and start pushing on it, it's going to try to force its way out. So we're going to keep working this for a few minutes. We'll come back and see what we got. You know, the great thing about these dry bags is they're very rugged. They're made of thick rubber material. They've got really good seams on them for the most part, so you can get a little rough with them and not tear it up. So when the time comes to drain this bag, you want to make sure that you're going out someplace away from any body of water, whether it's a lake or a stream, a river, or what have you. You want to give a chance for the natural filtration of earth to kind of sort through all the chemicals and stuff that are in the cleaning compounds before it gets back into the water source. It'd be an easy thing to do to just dump your clothes full of laundry detergent and go out in the lake and slosh it around, but that's really not the best thing in the world for the environment. So we're going to take this well away from any body of water and dump it out. After your first draining, kind of take advantage of the bag and squeeze your laundry in there, kind of work some of that extra water and soap out of there. And just kind of roll it backwards. Get as much of that out of there as you can. I can see a lot of the dirt coming out in the water. The water's coming out really gray. That's a good sign. Now I can look in here and I can see it's not perfect. It's not, beautifully clean, but it's looking pretty good. Let's get some water and let's rinse this. We're just going to add in some fresh water. And we're going to close it back up. Now we're going to do the same thing we did before. Shake it out. Try to let that water get as much of the soap out as possible. Got a little too much air in there. Let me get some air out. Let's let this fresh water do its thing. This shouldn't take as long to do since we're just kind of getting the soap out of it. So you don't have to worry about letting it soak or anything like that. If you've got a good supply of water available to you, you might want to do it twice. I don't personally like to have a lot of soap residue in my clothes. I've got rather sensitive skin. So if I've got anything left in there, it's probably going to irritate my skin after a while. It's kind of up to you as an individual. So let's drain this again. And just like last time, we're going to squeeze as much of that water out of there as we can while it's still in the bag. Just makes it a little easier to handle. So let's see what we got in our primitive little washing machine here. All right, let's take out this t-shirt. Y'all saw how wrecked this thing was. Let's see what we ended up with. It's not beautiful, but it's not half bad either. Still got some staining, but a lot of that came out. I'm really surprised that we got as much of that out as we did. So now let's look at these socks. So here's our two socks. Not bad. That one was already a little stained to start with. That's the reason I picked this sock, is it was one that my wife would wear around the house a lot, running around in her sock feet. This one, I'm really surprised at how clean this one came out. Still a little bit of just brown staining on there, but I'd take that. Now all we got to do is just find a place to hang this stuff and dry it out. I would say that the dry bag method is surprisingly successful. I did not expect that level of performance, so I'm really happy with that. But there's rain coming in and I need to get this camera out of the rain. This test is done. Stick around for the next one. All right, our next laundry solution is a product called Scrubba. This is something I came across recently, and it is specifically designed for the task at hand. So this is a way for you to do your laundry off grid, and that's really its only purpose. This is a variation on the dry bag technique we just did. So let's take a look at this thing, see what it's all about. So the Scrubba is built about the same way as a dry bag, same general concept. Although I will say that the material here is not quite as durable feeling as the dry bag that we tried before. Works the same way. It's a plastic bag with a roll and clip seal. Now the thing that makes this different from a typical dry bag is that inside it has ribbon. It has what they call a washboard on the inside of it, and that's designed to give you a little bit of extra scrubbing power once you get your stuff in it. This product costs considerably more than a dry bag, so if it doesn't have considerably better results, then I'm going to question as to whether it's actually worth it or not. Let's load this thing up and try it. I took the clothes from the dry bag test home, washed and dried them, got them nice and clean, and then took out and got them nice and dirty again. I wanted to make sure we were starting from the same place. So here's our cotton sock, looking a little nasty. The t-shirt is nice and funky. See both sides? And then finally our Polyblend sock. So let's get these all loaded into the Scrubba bag. You see it also has a window on the side, so you can kind of see what you're dealing with. Now also notice the Scrubba bag is quite a bit smaller than our dry bag. This is probably maybe 10 to 15 liters, whereas the dry bag we were using was a 20 liter. So this is not going to wash near as much stuff. For our purposes today, it'll be just fine. Pour in just a little bit of laundry detergent. All right, just a bit. And then we're going to go with the same about a half gallon of water. right, so just like our other one, we're gonna squeeze out a little bit of air and then roll this thing up. I'm gonna roll it up to right about the top of the washboard so we can get full use of that. And we're gonna clip it closed. And let's get to agitating. Make sure we rub it really good on that washboard. Take full advantage of that, because honestly, that's what we paid for. That's where the extra money goes. Now, I will say that one good thing about this product is that window on the side kind of lets me judge when my stuff's clean without having to open the bag. I can just kind of, slosh away at it and check on it occasionally and see how far we're getting. Make really good use of this washboard in here. There's a pretty good bit of leakage in this one. I didn't have too much trouble with that in the other one. Maybe I didn't roll down far enough on the dry bag. Tighten that up a little bit more. Get back at this. And on the side here, there's a little vent that will let out a little bit of air. So that way you don't have to open it all the way up in the event that you realize you got too much air built up in there. Tighten that back down. One thing I didn't have on the dry bag. All right, get back at it. Now I do like the addition of the washboard in here because I kind of feel like it gives you a little bit of an advantage. But I guess we'll find out once we've got everything done. You kind of look in there and see how grimy that water is that's in there. You see that? That's some nasty water. But this stuff was severely dirty. I mean, it was ridiculously dirty when I put it in. Make sure we get everything in there really saturated with the water and the soap. The only thing to get caught up in something else and end up not getting clean. All right, let's drain this sucker. This is gonna be nasty, I can tell already. Just like with the dry bag, we're gonna wring it, get as much of the water and the dirt out of there as we can. I just dropped my sock. Let's get some clean water in here and rinse this thing out. All right, so we're filled up, flip back. Let's rinse this stuff out. All right, let's drain it, see what we got. We'll roll out as much of this as we can. Let's reach in our bag, pull out a rabbit. First thing to come out is our cotton sock. Not bad. It's in good condition. Looks clean. I'd wear it. Next up is our Poly Blend sock that I just turned around and dropped in the dirt again. So I've got new dirt on it, but every time I try to shake the dirt off, I drop it again. Doesn't look too bad other than the dirt that I just got back on it. And last but not least, our t-shirt. Now, I don't know if y'all can see it all because the wind's kind of flapping things around. The t-shirt doesn't impress me. I don't feel like it got very clean. It wasn't any more or less dirty than it was for the first test with the dry bag. This thing came out with a lot of look at this. That's a lot of staining left over. So I worked these for about the same amount of time, and I gotta say that even with the addition of the washboard in the scrubba bag, all these little knobs and stuff in here, it didn't do a better job than a dry bag. If anything, the dry bag actually seems to have done a better job. Maybe it's because the dry bag's made of better material and I felt like I was able to get a little bit more aggressive with it than I did with this. The materials in this thing feel a little bit more flimsy. I mean, it's not what I'd describe as just cheap or terribly flimsy, but it is a lot thinner. I kind of expected it to be a little bit more robust, but the fact is, this thing's a lot more expensive than a dry bag and it really didn't do a better job. But that's not where we're stopped. We got one more thing to test. I'm gonna take these things home, wash them and dry them again, and we're gonna come back tomorrow. We're going to do another test with a very interesting piece of gear. Stick around for that. For this last item that I'm going to show you, I went to a site called Temu. If you're not familiar with it, Temu is an emerging on-site sales site, kind of like Wish, where you can buy things fairly cheap. Most of the stuff is imported items and not always the best quality. If you've never used Temu before, you can sign up for their application, and a lot of times on your first purchase, you can get up to 95% off of the cost. And that's what got my interest here, is there was a particular item that kept popping up saying that I could buy it for $5. So I got this thing. It's a portable washing machine. It's compact and collapsible. It does run off of electricity, so we have to have a power source, which is going to be part of the test here. But let's break this thing out and see what it looks like. So this is what we've got. Now the way this thing works is we have to pop the top. It's kind of like one of those camp kitchen sinks in the way that it's constructed. So we just push that out. There we've got our wash basin. We have a little agitator that we drop in here like this, a lid, and it comes with a plug. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this thing up. I've got the same items, the t-shirt, the 2 different socks. They've been treated the same way. I took them home yesterday after our last test, washed and dried them, brought them out, got them all muddy again. So I'm going to set this up. For our power for this item, I'm going to start off with a Jackery 240 watt solar generator. If that can't hack the job, I've got my 1000 watts. So we're going to start with the 240 and see if we can run this thing off of that. So let's set this up. Let's load it. Let's get some detergent and some water in there and see if this is going to do our laundry for us. So we're dropping in our Polyblend sock, our cotton sock, and our t-shirt. Now I will point out that this kind of maxes out the agitator basket, so you're not going to be able to wash much more than this. This is going to be a very small load device. We're going to add in a little bit of soap. Don't want to use too much. It makes it harder to get out of there. Now we're going to dump in our water. Now I can tell already this is going to use more water than they've been using before because it kind of needs to fill up a little bit. So I'm putting the entire gallon in, and as you can see, that pretty much brings it to the top. All right, so let's cap this off. We're going to turn it on. So let's see if the Jackery 240 is going to be able to maintain this thing as it runs its load. I also want to see how long it takes. It's 12:35 in the afternoon, and I just started it, so let's see how long this thing's going to run. Also note the Jackery is at 84% charge right now, and I want to see how much it drains it. Right now it's sustaining pretty well. So the way this thing's running is it looks like it'll cycle for a little bit and then it'll stop and probably spins in the opposite direction for a little bit. But I mean, it's chugging away. So far it looks like it's going to hold up. I mean, there's no smoke coming out of it. So we're going to let this run for a little bit and come back to it once it stops. I don't know if it has to do with the soap suds that are building up or whatever, but the longer this runs, the more it starts jumping around. So you definitely don't want to set this on the edge of anything and leave it unattended because it could hop right off the table. Kind of hear it running. So the washer just stopped. It ran right at 5 minutes. Not too bad. There is a handle on top of this that'll help you move it around. So I'm going to demonstrate that to you. And I'm also going to show you how we drain the water out. So here's the handle. And let's drain. I'm going to pour a little bit of clean water over the top of this just to kind of rinse out some of the built up suds. All right, so let's close this up and add our rinse water. Let's get our top back on. We'll say the top does not fit very well. Let's crank it back up. Man, that thing bounces. You're gonna have to be mindful of where you put this in relation to your power source because it does slosh some water. On this cycle, it seems to be sloshing quite a bit more. Feels like it's maybe a little off balance. And we're done. Let's drain the water out and let's see just how well this little washer performed on our laundry. I'm thinking we could run this thing one more cycle to kind of spin the water out of the laundry, but I'm not going to mess with that right now. I really want to see if this thing got clean. So first off, we have our cotton sock, which not really looking good. Next is our Polyblend sock. It's a little better, but still not looking great. And finally, the true test is our t-shirt. This thing looks about the same as it did when it went in. Wow, some of these stains are really bad. Now this was completely white when I put it back in the mud after I got it out of the wash at home. So all of the dirt that you're seeing is fresh. It was just put on here right before we did this test. Now, that's not to say that we wouldn't get a better performance if we ran multiple cycles or just put in less stuff. But I mean, honestly, how many loads are you going to wash where you have less in the load than a t-shirt and 2 socks? That's a really small load. Now, if all you want to do is wash your underwear, throw a couple pair in there, it'd probably work just fine. Unfortunately, for what this thing costs normally, fortunately I only paid $5 for it. What it costs normally, however, I would really be upset if I bought this and it performed this poorly compared to what we got with our regular dry bag. Even the fancy dry bag that was designed for doing laundry and had the washboard in it did not do as well as the regular dry bag. With any kind of laundry process, the longer you work it, the more it's going to get clean. But how long do you really want to dedicate to that? With the little washer, we had to stand here and hold it down for a good 5 minutes just to make sure it got through the cycle without dumping everywhere. This thing would probably be good for doing very small loads. If you had time and you just wanted to set it on the ground next to you while you're sitting around the campfire, put your hand on it, hold it in place, then run it 2 or 3 cycles, probably be fine. It used very little power off of the Jackery. The 240 Jackery was able to maintain really well and power this thing through the entire cycle. Yeah, you could run it for a while and probably get some pretty clean laundry. I'm betting you could even use it to help wash your dishes. Throw in a couple of small plates, cups, things like that, and then throw in some dishwashing soap, and it'd probably do a great job as a dishwasher. Overall, I'm not terribly impressed with it. I really had hoped for better performance from this thing. And if I had a choice, if nothing else, for purposes of space alone, that regular dry bag is a great option. For overall performance, I didn't find anything that did as well as just a regular old dry bag for doing your laundry. So maybe save a few bucks, just buy you a 20-liter dry bag and plan on using that. I mean, these other things are fun to play with, but they just didn't outperform that dry bag. They didn't perform to the level of justifying the extra expense. Now, these little washing machines, they're all over sites like Temu, and you can get them fairly cheap. It seems that it's going to hold up pretty well, and there's a lot of other options that we could do with it. We might play with it again and try a few other things down the line. But for now, it's just not my favorite as far as its overall performance. And it does take up a lot of space. It does need electricity. And when you start to add all that up, it just doesn't become the most appealing option. So do you have a particular way that you like to do laundry at camp? If so, tell me about it in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your suggestions. And what are your thoughts on these 3 different methods for doing laundry in an off-grid situation? But that's going to wrap up this video. And until the next one, prepare for the world that you live in, not the one you wish existed. And we'll see you around.